Hello everybody and welcome back to the Kamidogu podcast. I am Christopher Veljanovsky, and joining me once again in the virtual podcasting booth is the man, the myth, the legend, Toasty.
Toasty!
Now if you're new here, welcome. Please hit follow or subscribe because we have some great things coming. If you are returning, great to have you with us again. Either way, please tell a friend as it helps so much.
Good day, combatants. We are back for another splendid episode today. If you're a MK Conquest fan, boy, is this a spectacular one. Our special guest for this episode is Jeffrey Meek, who portrayed both the characters Raiden and Shao Kahn. This man's acting prowess is nothing short of sensational. Growing up, I've always looked up to this gentleman, wanting to be an actor myself. So it is an honor and pleasure to be joined by Jeff today, the Thunder God, the Emperor of Outworld. However you see him, one thing is assured, he is a legendary contribution to this beloved franchise. That being said, let's continue forward with this interview. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. To begin, Jeffrey, I would like to ask you, well, I'm sure the audience is aware, the majority of this interview will consist of Mortal Kombat Conquest, but before we dive off into that, perhaps elaborate more on your experiences and time auditioning for Johnny Cage in the original Mortal Kombat movie, along with Raiden Annihilation.
Wow, how do you know that? Yeah, you guys did some homework. I actually auditioned for Johnny Cage with the original movie. Yeah, in fact, I tested for it. And it was, strangely enough, it was with Cameron Diaz.
Yes.
She was auditioning. She didn't get cast. I didn't either. But, and so I remember reading with her. Wow. And Cameron and I had been friends for a while. I knew her. I met her one time. Her boyfriend was a friend of a dear friend of mine. So he said, "I'm going to my girlfriend's, 17th, 18th birthday. Would you like to come?" And so we went. And I went to the house, and it was, nice little party. And then Cameron Diaz entered the room, and I went, "Oh my God, this is just." When I saw her the first time, I just said, This young lady's a star. I mean, she just lit up the room. You know how she is.
Oh, guaranteed.
And so we met. So we became friends before she even became an actor. And then when she started auditioning, and one of her first things was going and trying to audition for Mortal Kombat. And so I was in on the read with her. So that was interesting. And I thought, I got along pretty well with two or three meetings, and and that went really well. Yeah. And then how it is in Hollywood is that they're just going in a different direction. The guy that did play, what was the guy's name that actually played Johnny Cage?
Lyndon Ashby.
Lyndon Ashby. This is kind of strange. I was auditioning for. And I knew Lyndon, just in acquaintance. So just because we were reading together, we were, auditioning for the same thing. Is that I was asked to do a soap in New York in 2007. It was called As the World Turns. It's no longer on the air now, but it was a very famous, TV show, daytime TV show. And they needed somebody to replace this particular lead on the show. And so I was asked to come in and read. And the other guy who was reading with me was Lyndon Ashby, and then I ended up getting the part, and he didn't. But we had remembered, auditioning for the Johnny Cage thing like many, many years before.
Yeah.
And so, I like the franchise. I enjoyed playing Mortal Kombat 2 before I even auditioned for it. So I thought it was really kind of a cool idea. And obviously, it's been very successful.
Most definitely.
Lyndon Ashby, we kind of crossed paths a couple of times over our careers, Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny that you brought that up. Where did you hear that?
Do my research.
Oh, no doubt about it. My God.
So yeah, I understand that Cameron Diaz actually, she was set to have the role, but she broke her wrists amongst training, and that they had to bail
Oh, is
her
that
out.
right? She got cast. I didn't.
Yeah, she got cast.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't
but
know
she
that.
broke
That's
her
great.
wrist, and so kind of last minute they shoved in Bridget Wilson. So,
Right. That's interesting. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, good for her. Yeah,
how
she should
about
have been cast.
How about your audition as Raiden for Annihilation? How'd that go?
was
Tell us
really
about
crazy.
that. Yeah.
Well, are you talking about the Mortal Kombat Conquest audition for it?
No, Annihilation. Did you not audition for Raiden in Annihilation?
I don't think I ever, if I recall, I don't remember auditioning for Annihilation.
Okay.
I could have. I mean, I'm old. I probably didn't remember. It's very, very likely that I'd forget a lot of auditions, especially the ones I don't get. And so maybe I did. I don't know.
Okay.
I remember, though, actually auditioning for a movie with Christopher Lambert.
Oh.
And so we talked a little bit about that in the audition, because it was just me and Chris and the director, and we had a really nice afternoon audition. It's a very rare audition, too, that you actually just spend the day, we were there for about an hour. And I was just going back with Chris for another movie that he was doing. And I asked him, I said, you're really great in the first Mortal Kombat movie. He said, where does all this intensity come from? And he says, oh, it's not because I'm intense, it's because I'm blind. He says, he gets that real look on his face because he can't see anything. And he said, that's what he said to me.
Yeah.
And so apparently he wears very, intense glasses. And and he was wearing it in the glasses in the audition with me. And he says, no, but I'm really blind. And so when he takes his glasses off, the reason he's so squinty and intense is because he can't see very well.
I suppose Raiden with glasses wouldn't look quite right, would he?
No. And so, Annihilation, I don't remember auditioning for that, but if I did and I auditioned for Raiden, I don't really remember. I do remember the intensity of auditioning for Mortal Kombat Conquest. That was I had 6 callbacks for that.
Wow.
And that was odd. But I don't remember that. Now, where did you read that somewhere that I said that? If I said that, I probably
mentioned it somewhere.
Did.
You mentioned it somewhere.
Interesting. I don't remember whether or not that's true or not.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Maybe
but I don't remember the audition itself. I do remember the Mortal Kombat Conquest series of auditions, and maybe I'm mixing those up a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Because they weren't that far apart.
Not really.
In terms of time, I don't recall. So anyway, I don't know. I do remember that there was about 6 or 7 calls for the Mortal Kombat Conquest, and I was getting kind of weary of that, because that's pretty unusual to have. You call back 6 times for a part is. I just kept trying to think that, well, this is a good thing, because they obviously are interested if they're calling you back. And also, there was a lot of people that were involved in the casting for Mortal Kombat. It's a big company, so it's not like a regular film per se, because you're dealing with the company itself. It's not like you're dealing with 1 or 2 people. You're dealing with a $1 billion industry you're trying to incorporate. So I think that's one of the reasons too, that I had to be in front of other people other than the director and the casting people. So they kept bringing in Mortal Kombat people to check out, and have a little bit of a say as to who they thought was right for the part. That might be it. I'm just speculating, but it was a lot. And it was a very strange audition, because on the 6th or 7th time that I came in, I remember that there was a big panel of people there, and including the casting director and the director. And when I auditioned for Raiden, they sort of whispered to each other, and I just went, oh, that's never a good sign, really, And then the casting director, who was Fern Champion, if I remember, and she gave me another script. And again, I thought that was the kiss of death. And she said, would you mind reading for Shao Kahn? And I went, oh, damn, they don't want me to do Raiden. And I really was so hot on playing Raiden, right? And so I got kind of pissed off. I got a little kind of, which was kind of perfect for reading for Shao Kahn, right? And so they said, do you want to go outside and read the script and kind of get an idea of the character? And I said, nah, let's just read it. If you want to make adjustments, make it. I was just being really kind of pissy about it, Yeah, and so I read it with that kind of ire in it.
Okay.
And I was reading with the casting director, and I was really kind of upset that you guys maybe jumped through 6 auditions, and now you're really considering me for another part. And I didn't even know who Shao Kahn was at the time.
Yeah.
And so they gave me the read, and I read it, and then they kind of whispered to each other afterward, and they were laughing a little bit. And I was just standing there waiting for them to make a decision. And then Fern Champion said, would you like to play both parts? And I went, what do you mean, like, I get paid for both parts? You're not doubling them up, right? And it said, no, we're actually we were considering that maybe they might be sort of twins, and you could play both. And I went, wow, I thought you guys didn't want me for Raiden, and now I get a chance to kick this with Shao Kahn too.
That's amazing.
That was like a dream come true, man. It was like an actor's dream.
Yeah.
And also it got me really integrated emotionally, because I'm playing like the really horrible evil guy. And I'm playing the fun, loving, wonderful guy. I mean, how great is that? When does an actor get that chance, right? And so I just jumped on it. I just thought it was just so. I thought I'd won the lottery. It's really cool. Yeah.
I have a question. Exactly how much improv did you inject into your performances? No?
None.
Very strict, eh?
No. Okay. Very, very strict. Very strict with the line. In fact, most of the time, guys, when you're dealing with film and television, you have to kind of really pay homage to the words. It's but we didn't have time. Mortal Kombat was, we were on a tight budget, tight schedule. And when you're doing television like that, you really don't have time to just go, okay, let's just improvise.
Switch it up a bit, yeah.
Now Scorsese can do that because he's got power as a filmmaker. He gets one in the can, or 2 or 3 good takes in the can that's scripted, and then he'll go to the actors, hey, and I do this when I'm directing, is that, okay, now let's just do one for us, and so just go ahead and improvise on it. Don't worry about the text so much. Let's let the actors go a little bit. But it's a really good question.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the stuff that we did with Mortal Kombat Conquest was absolutely strictly the script, because we just didn't have time to have that extra take,
Right.
So they can actually let us play. You go in, you would rehearse a scene, you'd, maybe 2 or 3 times, and then you had to shoot it. It was pretty rigorous this way, because there was so much of the story, putting all those fight sequences and everything. That was really incredibly challenging to get it in 6 or 7 days. I think we were shooting like 7 days. And then that was an episode. And so, and sometimes we were on location. That was tough, being out in the heat. In the summertime in Florida is a little rough, especially for Raiden wearing a wig. So, yeah, it was great, though. And so you didn't do a lot of improvisation.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a chance to play with it a little bit. And we play with dialogue a little bit sometimes in rehearsal, but you usually take that to the writer when you have a problem. Like, for example, I never changed a line unless I thought that what I was changing it to was a little bit, a step above of what the writer had done. And the writers were good, and so I didn't really try to mess with dialogue at all. I tried to honor what was given to me as much as possible. Now with Shao Kahn, there was some rewriting that was happening later on in the episodes for me that they gave me a little bit more more leeway with this, is that if I thought there's something that I thought I wanted to express with Shao Kahn, because he was kind of a character he didn't say a lot, when he said something, it was really pretty straightforward. But they allowed me, after a while, they started, when you're doing a television series too, what's really nice is they get to know you a little bit better. And so they start writing toward your personality or that character's personality a little bit, because they've seen your approach to it, And so it's a real simpatico kind of relationship with a writer and an actor in this kind of scenario when you're doing episode after episode after episode. And those same writers are seeing your work. And after a while, this is why I think that television series, after they have 2 or 3 seasons, they get really good, because they start to relax into each other. And so the writer and the director now are on a team. And the writer and the actor and the director are on these teams that they get, you get lubricated a little bit, you know what I mean? Sure. And the machinery works better.
Yeah.
And so that's why the first season of anything, I mean, if you look at Friends, the series Friends, is that the first season is a little clunky. They're trying to find their place
Seinfeld,
in it,
Same thing.
Seinfeld's a good example too. I mean, you take any real great show, it's very rare that the first season is the best season. Is one of the reasons why I thought that Mortal Kombat Conquest would have been really fantastic in the second or third season, when we got our rhythm. We were really now getting our rhythm to it, And so, and I just loved working on that show too. And it was sad that it didn't get picked up for the second season. Yeah. Any other questions about the improv stuff, or what brings it on? Do you think that it felt improvisational?
I think it's just kind of tradition. We always ask that. Like when we had Adani Maropis on, he said there was a few things that he kind of added his own spin on, but not so much. He had a hard time sort of remembering it, because when we talked to Bruce, he said it was very, very strict, like you. So
yeah. Good old Bruce. Yeah, good old Adani too. He was fun. Yeah, really fun. Good actor. Good actor.
So from what I understand, you were actually somewhat involved in the creative process for Shao Kahn's mask. Is that correct?
Correct.
Like, So did you happen to have any other input with regards to his attire or Raiden at all, or was that pretty...
Well, yeah, I wanted to have the shape of the character be a little different. I think that I wanted Shao Kahn to be more on steroids, and and Raiden was just kind of a dude that likes to party, and so I
with the blondes.
and also yeah, exactly. And so I'd look at costume and I'd go, you know what, I think Shao Kahn's a monster, and so can we make him a little bit more padded and just robust? And also I wanted to, with the mask, we went through a couple of incarnations with it, but they wanted me to put a skull cap on, so I could keep. And I just said, no, I don't want to do that, because it's so hot in Florida. I said the skull cap will melt and I'll sweat, and I'm a sweaty actor anyway. I get worked up, I get all and so I get all and Shao Kahn was no different, and so I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll shave my head under one condition. It's because that's easier to make the wig look better for, Raiden too. If you have bald head, you could stick it on. And so I said, I'll shave my head, but under one condition, is that every time that I want to get my head shaved, you got to do it. And so even if I'm not working that day, I'm going to come in, you're going to shave my head. Now, that worked out great. And I actually like being shaved, because you don't have to deal with anything, right?
It's nice.
And so no skull cap on Shao Kahn, and then Raiden's wig was so much more comfortable and easier to deal with, and so the hairstylist agreed that she was totally cool with whenever I came in and she would shave my head. And so even on my day off, sometimes I just go and check and see what everybody's doing. I love being on the set and hanging out with everybody.
Oh,
But,
yeah, guaranteed.
I would.
Great
That was
cast.
the deal. Yeah, right. So fun, so fun.
Bruce shared with us during the episode The Master, when Shang Tsung was about to turn to the dark side, and Shao Kahn introduced him to the Soul Still ability, that you were actually intensely ill during the scene, and the crew were trying to persuade you into getting a double to fill in for you in your scenes, yet you were insistent on continuing the scene. Was this possibly the most challenging moment during your time on the show? And what were some other
I don't
difficult
remember
moments?
that.
No?
Yeah, I don't remember that. No, but I do
Okay.
have something that I guess, sort of somewhat proud of, is that no matter how ill I was, I never missed a day of work. I never missed a day of work in any series that I
There
was
you
in.
go.
When I was doing Raven in Hawaii, I was like at 103 temperature, and I was out there trying to do, all the action. I
Wow.
was delirious, but I stayed in there and hung in there. But I don't know. I don't remember whether or not I was ill. He's probably right. Because Bruce's mind is pretty sharp. But yeah, I just didn't want to. I didn't want to let him down either. Bruce is a dear friend of mine.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for Bruce, and we played golf and had a good time. We were there. We'd sit on the golf course and just look at each other and laugh, because how great is this?
Yeah.
We get to do what we want to do. We're working in a great company, great parts, a lot of fun to do, and we get to stay in Florida and hit the golf ball. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So we thought we'd, really hit the jackpot with it. It was really very fun, and I that's how we became really good friends. We're still friends, So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Is there any particular episodes or moments that you can recall were very difficult for you? Do you have any extra challenging times?
Yeah, the most difficult thing for me, and I think this is kind of everybody at one point had a little bit of an issue with it, is that on the studio's the set of the studio, it was also part of the it was part of the
the tour.
Of the tour. And so when they would walk in, there was a catwalk around the top of the studio. And so when Shao Kahn was in his throne, the backlight would light the entire row of everybody up there. So every time I was playing Shao Kahn in that throne, which is every time, is that people were walking and carrying. It was incredibly distracting.
Oh,
yeah. So at one point I said, we tried to make a deal with I guess it was Disney, the MGM Disney thing, and said, look, it's fine that you have, but that we did, and also some of the actors got a little bit, not me, but some of the actors got a little bit militant about it. Is that we weren't told that this was going to happen, that we were a part of the exhibit, and we weren't paid for it, and so we didn't even get tickets to Disney. No, I mean, Disney they're notoriously kind of cheap anyway. But
I've heard
seriously, they are.
I've heard that.
Yeah, they are. It's just a fact. I mean, I'm not blowing the lid off of Disney. And so they didn't give us any leeway. They didn't tell us. It wasn't part of our contract. And that's a big deal when you got a bunch of people, 400 people walking by, and it's distracting as hell, especially when they're lit. And so it'd be different if they were darkened out and there was a sound. The glass that they had was pretty sound, but you could hear them, and so that was distracting. That was the most challenging thing for me, is that I got a camera on me and I got all this work to do as Shao Kahn, and I have a live audience that's not very attentive in terms of a live audience. You're seeing strollers and you're seeing people picking their nose, and it's really very distracting. And so it's like you're out on the street and people are just walking around and staring at you. That was hard to get used to. So what we did is we made a deal with them, is that when you come in, you can't talk to everybody behind the glass. You've got to sit still when we're rolling camera. And so you either did not let people through at the time we're rolling, but you could let them through. And I was really attentive to it. I would even wave to everybody. And when I was off camera and they were coming by and they loved it, you know, as part of, and I'm a team player. I didn't feel like that was a problem, but it's a very unusual situation for a film set. So that was, I think the most challenging thing for me was just dealing with that. So that's not a lot. I mean, the other thing too is the most challenging thing for me, I think, is that I was very sad to play Shao Kahn. I'd walk on the set with Raiden. Everybody loved Raiden. Everybody wanted to talk to Raiden. Everybody wanted to party with Raiden. He was the life of the party. As soon as, in the same day, I would go in and change my costume, change my makeup, come out as Shao Kahn, and everybody would avoid me. They wouldn't get within 20 feet of me. And so they just scared the hell out of them and I'd sit there in my chair like, nobody likes him. Nobody likes Shao Kahn.
Well, so that was weird. Your Shao Kahn was so intense and so scary.
Even as a kid, playing it.
I used to sit back from the TV whenever you'd come on screen. So
yeah,
well, that's awesome. That was the intent. You know, I just wanted that guy just to be so freaking tough and dark and you know, and challenging. And so I had to work on my voice. I dropped my voice like an octave. That took me so if I was playing Shao Kahn and Raiden in the same day, it took me like 40 minutes to get my voice changed.
Wow.
So because Raiden is just in my regular speaking voice.
Yeah.
But Shao Kahn is he's in this other place. And so that was, a little challenging, just vocally getting myself there, you know? So that was really the only thing that was difficult about the two differences. And again, it's just I felt so lonely on the set.
Jeff,
yeah,
I don't want to ask too much, but do you think you could say a certain line from Shao Kahn? Soon everyone will feel my power.
Soon everyone will feel my power.
Oh my God, that's amazing! Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Finish him. It was fun. I mean, I'd have to warm up for at least a half hour or so in order to get it to write the pitch.
Octave.
It's hard to get my I had to loosen up my vocal cords to get it in its place, you know.
Yeah.
But I loved playing Shao Kahn. It was so cool. I loved, one of the most fun was fighting myself in the last episode, which was really a trip. And that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, very good. Yeah, so, I have great, and again, you can see I have great fond memories of that show. I really do. I was really a gas. Actually, I was asked by the guy that had produced it. I can't remember his name right now.
Larry Kasanoff.
Larry Kasanoff. We got together afterward. He was going to put the next Mortal Kombat film together, and I was to play Raiden and Shao Kahn. And Shao Kahn. And Shao Kahn, and that never really quite materialized at the time. And then I was doing something else, and then it came up again. And I think now I'm too old to play them. But he was really excited. We had lunch and a couple of times talking about when that film was going to happen, and that I was actually. You asked me if I wanted to do it, so I said sure. Never happened, but
wow. You know, Jeff, you might say you're still old, you're too old and all this, but I can tell you right now, I'm very active on the Twitter community, and literally everyone wants you to come back as Shao Kahn. It's a fact.
Wow.
They think
fantastic.
They think you are the only person who has done justice to the character within the 30 years that he's been on the screen. So
wow, that's exciting to hear. Thanks. That really makes me feel good. I took a great deal of pride in Shao Kahn. I really did. And I enjoyed playing him. I really, really enjoyed playing. It's not often that you get to play the Prince of Darkness. You know what helped me with this is that I played Dracula a couple of times. You know, I played, you know, and I was also in a Shakespeare company, and I think there's something quite grand about Shao Kahn.
Oh, definitely.
You know, he's larger than life. He's like a mythic figure, you know.
Yeah.
And Raiden's not. He's more down to earth than just a regular guy that you'd want to have a beer with, right? and he's a jokester and a trickster. Shao Kahn is not that guy, you know.
Why do you always have to be so sarcastic? 'Cause I can.
Why not?
Yeah.
When I can. Yeah. Raiden was a joy. Raiden was, a real joy to play. Kind of. And sometimes when we talk about, you know, the jokes, I mean, was you going back to any kind of improvisational thing, we just, if I had any joke that I wanted to tell, usually they were pretty good about it. You know, if they wanted me to change a little bit of a quip, you know, they were all right with that. But I would always approve or get approval from the writer. I think it's just decorum that, you know, unless you're, you know, doing a comedy with if you're doing something that is a improvisational comedy where you're just coming up with one-liners all the time, like in Anchorman. Did you guys ever see Anchorman?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And so, the outtakes of that are hilarious because, you know, Will keeps coming up with these different outtakes that are just stunningly funny. And so that's a different animal. We didn't get a chance to do much of that. So I would just try to, you know, have the writers approve whatever it is I had to say. If I wanted to tweak the joke a little bit, they would let me do that. But, yeah. Yeah, what was the question?
So I guess we've heard a lot of stories about how fun and how crazy it was on set. Do you have any specific examples or funny stories you could share with us?
Let's see. You know, it was really, I thought, something that I was fighting for on the show. I don't know if it's funny, but because they were trying to expedite the show as much as they could, they had two different crews that were doing the fight sequences. Yeah. So you had your stunt coordinator, and then they had the stunt guys. And they would work out the fights. And I had, you know, as Raiden, I didn't get a chance to do as much fighting as I wanted to.
Unfortunately.
And so I had a little bit of a beef about that. I mean, I'm a real martial artist, you know. I'd like to be able to show off my stuff. And I think the other actors felt that way too. And Daniel was an excellent martial artist.
Yes.
And really powerful. Great kicker. Very Jean-Claude Van Damme-ish in a way.
Daniel Bernhardt.
Great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Daniel was marvelous at this. And I was a martial artist, you know. Now some of the other actors were not, and they had to double them a little bit more. But I was kind of upset that Raiden didn't get a chance to kick ass a little bit, and also, quite frankly, Shao Kahn. I mean, when the only time that we really fought, and I kind of fought for this. I went, what's the payoff here? Here's the two most powerful guys in the whole realm, and you don't have them actually duking it out, or you don't have anything going on with them. I'm like, come on, guys, I'm here. You have my services, and you can see that it's me that's doing the fight. It's not my stunt double, you know. And so why not have more of that and so I kind of lobbied a little bit for it, but a lot of the younger actors were doing, you know, most of it. But one of the things that I really think was, you know what, it was great about the show too is the women.
Oh, wow.
You know, we talk about a parade of beautiful women. I mean, that was another reason why being on the set was so great, is that there was this incredible beauty. Every guest star on that show was just a 10.
Oh,
right?
Easy 10. Easy 10. And
so what we would do as the nice guys that we are is that we would actually invite them out to dinner. It was traditional for the entire company Daniel, Christina, Bruce, me, and the guest stars. We would take them out to dinner, a steak dinner.
Paolo was the social director, I
each other.
hear.
Huh?
I hear Paolo was the social director, apparently.
Very much so. Paolo was really quite... what a marvelous guy, Paolo Montalban. Oh, my God. Just the sweetest, most life of the party guy. And so we would all get together. We just loved each other's company. It was just as people. And so we would invite all of the guest stars to go out and, we'd socialize together during the week. Nice. And in between stuff. The nice thing about being at that set, it was at Disney. And so you can get onto the lot, and you could go to all the great restaurants, and some really great restaurants in Orlando and in the surrounding area. So we'd go to all these, we'd find these great spots, and we just sort of take over. We'd have like 15, 20 people come in every night, and we'd have a steak dinner, and it was just awesome. And so getting to know some of our guest stars was so much fun. It was really a good party atmosphere, and everybody was having a good time. There was no disgruntlement. So I would say, the whole thing was like that. I'd play golf with my other people on the show. We'd go to the movies together. We would have dinner together. It was just really a very family oriented situation, and everybody was there. Nobody was from there. So everybody was imported. And so everybody had to have their own, apartment and stuff. So a lot of the actors, were in the same apartment building. They didn't want to, I lived on Celebration. Do you guys know where Celebration is? If you go to...
Sort of.
Yeah. Okay, Celebration is a planned community. It looks like the Truman Show.
Yeah.
Okay, it's really that suburban hell.
Yeah.
It's everything's perfect, and you have to make sure your lawn's perfect. And in fact, they would send letters to people if you had your windows open and your living room was dirty. They would give you a note.
That reminds me of the one episode of X-Files. Oh my God!
Oh yeah, totally. And so I loved it because it was so weird. And so I had to live in Celebration, and of course I was shaved, and I would wear sunglasses, and I'd have my sticks or my golf clubs on my back, and I'd wear shorts and little sand. I was just a freak, and I would just ride around in this place. I looked like Uncle Fester going to play golf. And everybody in the cast was afraid of this place, and I loved it. Had a great golf course, great restaurants, great everything. They even had fake snow in the wintertime, and so I loved living in Celebration. Nobody else did, so they lived in town. They lived in Kissimmee and this apartment complex, and I went, why do I want to live there when I can live in Celebration and be a freak? And I loved it. I loved it. And so every time that they would come visit me, we would go out to Disney, and my job was right across the bridge. I would just get in the car, and 5 minutes I was at work. It was genius. They had a great gym there. I don't know if you've not been to Celebration, it's really cool if you like that kind of environment. But it was kind of I was a bit of a freak show there, but it was cool. I loved it. But we would get together every night. It was not like just once in a while. It was like all the time. Because we didn't really have family there. It was just we created a family. Everybody, it was like we were all on location there.
Yeah.
Because there was nobody from Florida. Everybody, people were from New York, L.A. We all got this job, and we flew to Orlando to make this thing happen. And so we relied on each other for, socializing. It was really very cool. Yeah, it was a nice environment. So fun, Jeff, weird things. I don't know. I guess some of the special effects, that was kind of cool. What it was really fun too is going out with the stunt guys. We would go. There's in Disney World. There's an adult sort of part of the theme park, which is a bunch of bars basically, and then they have fireworks at night. It's cool. So you can just bar hop and never get in a car. And so I would go to the stunt guys because they would just take over the dance floor. And these guys were just amazing athletes, right? And so you always felt safe because I was around some of the baddest dudes in the world, right? And so we just hang out, and I felt like I had a team of about 30 bodyguards. It was awesome.
Jeff, did you manage to keep anything from the set?
Yeah, I did. I have the mask.
Really?
I don't know where it is. I think it's in my other office. Yeah, I have the mask.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
He made me a duplicate. You know, they did an imprint on my face. You know, that when they're building the mask, they had to shape it so it fit my head.
Yeah.
And so they did that whole prosthetic thing which is really disconcerting to do that. And they put the straws in your nose, and so you sit there for. Wow. It used to be in the old days they'd wrap you like a mummy, and you were in there for like an hour, which was incredibly challenging for me because I get a little claustrophobic. Yeah. But now they have the different kinds of prosthetic stuff that only takes 10 minutes or so. But it's still the same thing. I mean, you can't hear, you can't see, and you can only breathe through your nostrils. It's trippy. And so he built that, and then he put the mask on the top of that, and then he gave it to me as a gift when we left.
Were there
so I have that.
any,
I have
Go ahead.
What else
do
I have from that? I don't think I have anything else from the show. You know what though, is that when we left, we thought we were coming back, and so I left my bike with the line producer, and I left some other stuff that in my apartment and everything. I never saw it again.
Oh,
somebody ripped me off, man.
Oh man.
So I had this really great beach bike. And I never saw it again. Never heard from the guy. So whoever that is, he knows what. If he's listening right now, he knows what I'm talking about.
What a character, Jeff. Were there by any chance any scenes that were originally written or even shot, for that matter, that didn't make the final cut that you can recall?
I don't think so. I think maybe some fight stuff might have not gotten in there. Yeah, okay. My point being about the fight stuff being in two different places is that when I was doing my show in Hawaii, which was Raven in Hawaii, I would actually have the guys work out a particular fight sequence, and then I would come in and I'd put in my, 2 bits, and then I'd shape it in a way that was appropriate to the situation in the scene. Because fight scenes are scenes, and I've had trouble with the conceptual idea that you have all these scenes that are going on, and then you would have a totally separate fight. And I think that that's a mistake, because then it just comes up. It doesn't have the dynamic of the scene of the character that's actually in the fight. And so I argued quite a bit, and I wasn't in a lot of fights in Mortal Kombat, but when I was, or any kind of activity, I would think that there were certain kinds of styles that should have been befitting certain characters more.
Sure.
And so when Raiden was fighting, it was very minimal, because he was such a badass, is that he didn't have to do a lot of real freakish shit. It had to be something kind of subtle and dynamic and minimalistic, because it was just Raiden. And also, I like it when in a fight, when you're checking in to see whether or not anybody's hurt or winning, or the dynamic of actually playing the scene as if it's a chess match is much more interesting than just some calisthenics. And showing off as a martial artist is one thing, but if it's not in the context of a good scene or storytelling, I think it's a mistake. And so that was something that I thought needed to blend a little bit more, is that you had the A camera and the B camera, which was the fight sequence, having a little bit more communication as to the scene work of the fight. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's easy to get
Definitely.
Caught up in because for example, if my character was encountering just a jerk, just somebody that didn't have a lot of skills, but he was a bully. Well, I'm not going to have an elaborate fight with this guy. I'm going to tweak him out in a couple of moves, right? It's just he's a fly, flick him away. So you have to know how to build the scene with the fight, and is it appropriate to the particular context of the scene. And so I thought sometimes the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. And so the A camera has to be in communication all the time with the B camera so that you're getting a good fit of storytelling with the fight sequences. Anyway. And it happens all the time. Is it, they're trying to expedite it, and try to get it, as fast as possible. Yeah.
So of the two characters that you portrayed, who was your favorite to portray, and how has Mortal Kombat affected you till this day?
I teach a lot. So to answer the last part of the question, is I teach a lot. And, I haven't been in the, the zeitgeist for a long time. And my students will look me up. And then they get a little freakish, but they don't get freakish about the majority of my career. They get freaked out that I was Raiden or Shao Kahn. And so the impact of that has been absolutely incredible, because Mortal Kombat is just as popular now as it was, 20 years ago. And so there's so much, I get so much great feedback from anybody that is, everybody plays the video game. And so it's huge to have that relationship at all with it, is that I get so much credibility and kudos from my students. But it's not that I played, Stanley Kowalski, from Streetcar, or I was Biff in Death of a Salesman, some of the great American literature. It says that I played Raiden and Shao Kahn. And that's cool. That's really cool. It never gets old, right? No. And then, it never gets old. And so there's that. What was the first part of the question, Christopher?
Out of the two characters that you portrayed, who was your favorite? Did you have one, or did you like them for different reasons?
Well, I like them for different reasons. Like I reiterated before, Raiden was great because he was always around people and he was the life of the party. But I had more fun actually creating Shao Kahn, is because he was just so troubled. He just had so much going on. And also just, the danger of that. But again, I was lonely.
Yeah, a lot of actors have seemed to.
In fact, that was one of the reasons why he was so upset. He was so upset because nobody liked him. I was really interested in them exploring the brother situation. Is that even in the fight sequence that we had at the end of the movie, when he was sort of tearing him down and on the steps, letting him know that they're all dead. All your friends are dead. It was a hell of a way to leave the show, that the bad guy wins.
Exactly.
So I really enjoyed both characters, but I would have to say more of Raiden, because I was around other people. I'm a social guy. And so he always was hanging out with really beautiful women. And he was always having a beer, and he was the life of the party. Yeah. So it was more, I would say it was more fun to play Raiden, but I think that I had, a great time exploring Shao Kahn, interestingly enough. Yeah.
Looks like we've lost Toasty.
I'm trying to think if I have anything else from the show. I don't think I do. I think we were all thinking we were coming back.
Yeah, that seems to be
Anybody
the general
talk
consensus.
about why we didn't come back? Do you know why we didn't come back?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, here's what I heard. Is that the ratings were good. Everybody loved the show. We all thought we were coming back. And what had happened is that the production had neglected somehow to include in the budget the residuals for the actors.
Okay.
And so that came out to at least $2 or $3 million. And so nobody wanted to pick up the tab of that, including TNT and Mortal Kombat, actually, they were bickering as to who was responsible for that faux pas financially. And so that was the reason that the show didn't get picked up.
Wow.
It's because nobody wanted to write a $2 or $3 million check.
Yeah.
And that's what I heard, because I know the ratings were terrific.
Yeah.
You know, the show was really well. And to this day, I mean, the show is so well received. And I thought the production values were good on it, and we were having fun, and we're getting better. So I was really shocked. Of all the series that I've ever done, I was more shocked that show didn't get picked up for the second season.
Yeah, I think everyone.
And I couldn't figure it out until I finally started talking around. Yeah, I started talking around to people that were really in, you know, the negotiation of the show, and that's what I heard. Is that's the reason that it happened? Is somebody kind of made a financial boo-boo, and nobody wanted to take responsibility for that. A slight one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've mentioned before, Jeffrey, in regards to the Raiden and Shao Kahn fight, that there were some instances that were cut out, such as some extra wire work, and there were actually certain weapons that were brought out. I know it's going back a while, but do you remember any particular key moments that you were a little disappointed didn't show up in the final product?
Yeah, there was, you know, again, some of the wire work. We spent a lot of time, you know, flying everybody around, and including Shao Kahn. But I think when I look back at it, because Shao Kahn was so kind of deformed, it looked a little weird flying around. But Raiden looked cool. You know, Raiden had that flowing sort of thing too. But yeah, there was that. I think there was a couple of weapons that were in there that didn't get a chance to make the final cut.
Can you recall which ones?
I can't. I think it might have been... Yeah, I'm trying to look back. It was either, you know, a staff or an axe or something. I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
But we spent almost 2 days shooting that whole fight sequence. That was, you know, we were in a black space. It was a pretty big part of the studio. It was actually an empty studio that wasn't attached to the main studio. And, you know, and it was, you know, the scene's long too in it. There was stuff that I wanted to write. In fact, I actually had some input on the writing of that. And I said to the writer and executive producer, I said, would it be all right if I choreographed the fight sequence with, you know, our stunt coordinator? And they said, yeah. And so we sat down and we talked about it quite extensively about a couple of weeks before we did it. And I said, I want to have the scene within the scene kind of idea that we talked about earlier. And so Shao Kahn and Raiden kind of confer or experience each other throughout the whole fight as to whether or not who's winning and who's losing. And then what happens at the end gets revealed that, you know, you're no longer in the Earth realm. You're in my territory, which I didn't quite understand thematically. But I thought it worked. And it was fun to, you know, for me, I'd never worked in a situation where I was actually fighting myself before. So that was incredibly challenging and exciting.
Yeah. And
I thought the stunt coordinator, forgive me for not remembering his name, because he was so good. Do you guys have any idea who it was? You know, do you have any reference to that?
Sadly, I don't off the top of my head, no.
It's too bad, too, because he should be mentioned here, and I feel bad not remembering his name. But he was terrific in working with, and he would take, you know, he'd play me when I was, you know, we're shooting my side of it. And so, yeah. And I love the writing of that, how that all kind of came down. I would have liked to have seen even more of an environment of that, rather than just being in a black space, which I thought was cool. But it could have traveled into different. It could have traveled into different kind of lighting or energetic places. That we talked about that too, that it was actually changing. We were knocking each other into different realms. And then
Really?
I thought that would, yeah, that's what I thought would have been kind of cool to keep the kind of realm idea working so that it actually kind of made more sense that the blows were, they're almost godlike in a way, these two characters. They're gods. So they don't, so when they hit each other, you're actually sending somebody in a different cosmic space. And so I thought that was kind of a nice idea, and it would change, and change the environment so that the environment itself would be, you get hit so hard by something, that there's this lightning and thunder and everything that actually collapses that particular space into sending you to another place. And I thought that would have been a kind of a cool thing to do. I think we just kind of ran out of money and ideas about how we're going to do that. But but we were in a black space instead of a green screen space. Now, a green screen, we could have done this much more effectively. And so I was a little disappointed that didn't happen, that we could have been in these different worlds, so that when I do get catapulted into a realm where Raiden no longer has these kinds of powers, that the environment had shifted throughout the entire fight. That was something that we didn't get a chance to do. But I thought that would have been kind of really dynamic and cool. Like the whole lighting would change, So if I hit him with something and then lightning came out of my hands and stuff, that the environment would be affected by that. So that I thought that would have been kind of cinematically cool, but that didn't happen. So, but it came out fine. I mean, it is what it is.
It came out great.
Yeah, I thought it would, and also I thought that again the stunt coordinator really was an excellent martial artist, and so he made me look good in a lot of. He was taking shots that I didn't, I don't like taking shots because they hurt. When you're in a fight sequence, and it's when you snap your head 30 times in a fight sequence, you're going to be in traction. It's that's why these guys get paid a lot of money. Is that that's why they call them fall guys, is because they're hitting the ground.
Yeah.
They're really, now the floor was padded a little bit too, which was great.
Yeah.
So they had built kind of a padded floor for that whole fight sequence. So when I was doing kips and stuff and coming up and hitting my back and coming back up, there was a couple of places where I was hitting the ground, which is pretty rare in a fight sequence with an actor. Is that the reason that they're called fall guys is that you're not hitting the ground. That's where you really get hurt. And so he was doing a lot of it, but I was doing a lot of it too. And so because it was padded, it didn't seem to be such a big deal. It was like being in a gym or a dojo.
Yeah.
So cool.
I'm aware Vengeance in general really is one of your favorite episodes, but besides this, what are some of your most beloved scenes that you had shot on that show that you can recall? Some other memorable scenes that you really
I love the pilot too, because there was some really kind of, dramatic stuff that I think that the show kind of there was a silliness about Raiden that I liked it when he was also really serious. And so when things got serious, how serious was Raiden? And so there was that first opening stuff with the, meeting Paolo and I and all of that, sort of mystical stuff. I love that. And I thought that was shot so beautifully, and there was a kind of quality about the filmmaking that was really, really dynamic. And it kind of got thinned out a little bit because we were just, you're shooting so furiously. You don't get a chance to have as many creative setups as a filmmaker when you're doing the television show. And so I thought that was something that I really loved in the pilot. I also loved when we went on locations, some of the local stuff. I like the forest stuff too. There was a really great sort of forest episodes that we had that I would have liked to have some more of that. Also, the set was fantastic. That whole city that they built in that was so fun to go to work because they had done such beautiful art direction in that show. The art direction was fantastic. right?
Definitely.
And so I love the whole Disney feel of that. Let's see, any particular episodes? And I think I like the one. I liked it when Raiden was kind of again when he kind of get pissed off and he'd actually do something. Otherwise it was just me coming in and going, "Hey guys, get your shit together." And
one of my favorite episodes with you, Jeffrey, as Raiden is easily Quan Chi. That one, because you're trying to snap the three combatants back into reality because they have this kind of dark persona to them now, and you were very serious in that episode trying to get them to snap back. And then you also have a brilliant scene and set of dialogue at the end there when you're talking to Kung Lao in the temple, because he almost kills a monk right in front of you, but you stop him. I don't know if you remember all this, but I thought that kind of reminded me.
I have to see. You know what I should have done? I actually should have watched the show. You guys are so up on it. I should have been a little bit more up on what episode is. Now, Vengeance was what? Can you tell me what the storyline is for that particular episode?
Sure, absolutely. Vengeance is the 22nd and final episode of the series. And yeah, that is the one where you confront Shao Kahn.
Yeah,
that's
I love that episode.
Yeah,
I love that episode. And also, again, is that it got really serious, and he was letting everybody know that you got to step up.
Oh yeah, Raiden wasn't. Yeah. It's funny because it's so serious, those set of scenes, but it was literally just the episode before Stolen Lies, where Raiden's sitting down having a few beers with a blonde and going into Kung Lao's house. It's all vacated, and you're looking around.
Yeah, I actually requested more of those scenes. Can I just be hanging out with a beautiful blonde on my lap for the rest of the show? With a beer, with a real beer too. That would be nice. And I'd be happy, and that would be it. Let's just do that. How about if he, in fact, I was thinking, why doesn't Raiden have more relationships that make him a little bit more vulnerable? That was something that I talked to because everybody else in the show, of the four main characters, they had issues. They had their issues.
Yeah.
What was Raiden's issues? Other than Shao Kahn, and it was just trying to, I felt like, I get a little tired of the paternal kind of quality of Raiden kind of busting everybody's chops for not being adult enough.
That's a brilliant thing you bring up, though, Jeff, because there's an episode, I think it was episode 3, Cold Reality, with Sub-Zero. I remember Kung Lao was extremely agitated and frustrated, and he's calling out your name, trying to get your attention, and he's like, this is useless, more or less, and then he tries to walk away. Bam, you're right there in front of him. You're like, Kung Lao, I can't and always won't be there for you. My responsibility is to Earthrealm and beyond. So clearly you had so many things on your agenda. It would have been great for the audience to really, get into the details there.
And so fun to play. Very, very good. So that's a good example of it. That's an excellent. That's exactly the example that I would use if I were to remember. And so yes. And so when I really, really was lobbying for, maybe there's a particular Earth creature that he was, smitten with, somebody that he had.
Sure, yeah. There could be some potential for some great characters there.
Yeah, absolutely. Or that he gets in trouble. Why, when does, there's... It's hard to play a character that doesn't have many flaws, and so there was an arrogance about Raiden that I found kind of after a while it gets a little bit annoying. That here comes the one that's all knowing, right? And so I would like it maybe if the roles were reversed every once in a while, where Raiden gets in a little bit of trouble and has to be talked to by maybe power.
Well, there's the elder
right
gods too, who are the step above you. It would be cool to
There
see
you
some
go.
discussion between you guys.
There you go. Or maybe I'm not doing my job very well, and I get in trouble somehow. You know, there was all kinds
No
of
more
things that I
blondes,
thought that
Raiden. What is this?
Well, I just like beer, man. I like chicks and I like beer. Problem? I mean, you put me here.
Jeff, I also want to ask you. You mentioned briefly before that you spoke with Larry Kasanoff and that you were set to reprise both roles. We had an interview with Adani Meropis as well, and apparently he said that he was set to return and he was going to be the main villain, Quan Chi. Do you remember anything at all from that script that really stood out to you, or is there anything you think you could reveal?
I just thought Adani was so committed to his role in it. I was so excited to work with him because he was so good at committing to that character. Yeah. Right? I just, it's when you're playing fantasy like this too, sometimes we have a tendency, I think, is to kind of play at them rather than being them. And so when a guest star would come on, it was almost as if it can be a little cartoony in terms of the approach of it, rather than finding ways to find the humanity within these, really extraordinary characters. And I think this is one of the reasons that I love playing Raiden and Shao Kahn, is I kept trying to find ways to humanize them a little bit, so that there was, some kind of identity or flaw in them that was accessible. And I think that Adani, even though with all that makeup and everything that he brought to it, I thought that his humanity through it, and that there was this connection that he had and this commitment that he had to this character's stuff we talked about it, was that I really liked him very much. I didn't know him before the show. And he made me step up in a lot of ways. It was just like, wow, he's bringing it. And sometimes the guest stars were so bloody good that it kind of elevated the whole set, is that we're watching this guy's work, and okay, now he's stepped it up to another level, It's really
Adani told us that his favorite scenes were actually the scenes with you.
And likewise. Likewise, of all my guest stars, I would say that, he set the bar.
Wow.
He really did. And I was just going, my God, guys, how do you act out of that outfit? It's, you know what I mean? It's like there's so much going on there. How do you get? And he brought humor to it. It was. I just thought there was so much humanity through all of the accoutrement of his makeup and his costume. But he just embodied it. And that's a sign of 100%. A really superior actor, too, to be able to actually bring all of his soul work through so much going on. And I asked him when I saw him for the first time, I said, good luck acting out of that. And he went, yeah, there's a lot going on, right? And I said, whew, that's quite an outfit you got going on there. And so, but he and I just really did hit it off. I mean, I really enjoyed his work. And again, he's had a wonderful career creating these kinds of really dynamic characters. He's a good actor,
Oh, definitely.
He can do he's a real character actor too. He changes dialects, and most of his characters are different in different shows that he's been in. Mm-hmm. I've just enjoyed his career too. He's just a lovely person, just a committed, lovely, wonderful, talented guy. Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I'm really. Thank you so much, Toshi, for saying that, because that means a lot to me, given how much respect I have for Adani too. He's just a wonderful character. Man. Yeah, and an excellent.
Did you happen to read the script for the third movie that was going to happen?
I did. Yeah, but it was very early on. It took many years for that thing to get off the ground. And so that was at least, 10, 15 years ago? I mean, when did we finish shooting? It was like 2000, right?
Was it 2000?
the...
Well, it aired from 98 to 99.
Right. So we were finished. I was out of there by, the end of 99. That's 22 years ago. And so I think that it was probably at least 15 years between when I met for that movie before it got made.
Yeah.
And James Remar, was he the guy that played the Raiden in the
Annihilation,
movie
yes.
in Annihilation? I'm not quite sure what their rationale for that, other than that James he's got more of a movie following than I do. That might have been something that they considered because it was out doing the movie instead of the television series. I'm not quite sure why that happened that way. But James is a wonderful actor. He was. Did you ever see 48 Hours? Him in 48 Hours? Do you know the movie with Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy?
I just remember him from Dexter.
Yes, terrific in Dexter too. But James has been around for a long time. He's a terrific actor, well respected, and also played a lot of heavies. He plays a lot of bad guys. He's an intense guy. He's really an intense, wonderful actor. Yeah. And so I'm not sure what the rationale is that, they had James playing Raiden. It's a different kind of quality, that's for sure, of the character. Different approach. But yeah, I would have liked to have played. I don't know how that went down, though. Don't know. I don't understand the rationale of why one actor gets chosen over another. It's a hard thing to do, but there's a lot of people that are involved in those kinds of decisions. That there might be, it might be that they feel like, somebody has a bigger following. There might be more people that'd be interested. They're trying to put butts in the seats, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. But speaking of Annihilation, though, that was filmed, that was released in 97, though. Yeah, and then you went on to do Conquest in 98 anyway there. So
wasn't Brian Thompson, didn't he play Shao Kahn in that one?
Yeah, we had him on the show as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Brian Thompson and I went to college together.
Yeah.
Did he say that?
You gut punched him and sent him almost to the hospital.
Did he say that too?
No, he didn't mention that part, but I know it happened.
Well, we were, I'll tell you a little story about it, is that we were doing Coriolanus. We were doing a Shakespeare play, and it was at the university. And, Brian's a little bit older than me, but not much. And he was playing one of the senators or something like that. And he was standing next to me in rehearsal, and he was giving me shit. He was talking shit. And finally, I was playing Coriolanus. Now, Coriolanus, if you don't know Shakespeare, he's like one of the greatest warriors in the history of the Roman Empire. And so I was in character, and he was poking me. Now, Brian's not a small guy. Brian's big, and he's really strong. He's a football player. He's a tough guy. And I turned to him as Coriolanus, and I said, "Knock it off, or I'm going to lay you out." And he kept doing it. And finally I turned to him and I said, I promised you I would do this. And so that's when I took him out. We were on stage. We were on stage. We were in rehearsal on stage. And I just took one little left hand to the stomach. And I didn't know that Brian had had surgery to remove part of his intestines, like a couple of years earlier. He had a blockage or something, and he had a real major surgery. Nearly killed him. And so I didn't know that I was hitting him right on the spot of where I didn't know that he had been sick at all. And he went down like a frickin' sack of potatoes, man. And the whole rehearsal stopped. And I'm standing over him, and I thought, wow, I didn't think I hit him that hard. and I never got any shit from Brian from that moment on. And so we have been friends ever since. We go to golf tournaments together, and he's Brian's a great guy. But at that point, he had just pushed me a little too far, and so it was wrong for me to hit him. But he kind of asked for it. He kind of asked for it. And so that's what happened. So Brian and I go way back. In fact, I remember Brian. I used to go to Universal Studios when he was doing the Conan tour. Did you know he was one of the actors in the live tour of Conan at Universal Studios? He got that job, and from that he played, this sort of evil wizard guy.
Cobra.
He got Cobra, and he told me about his audition with Stallone, and he got that job. That was his real first big break. But he's got a great mug, doesn't he? And the reason and the reason he looks like that is because apparently, from what he told me, did he tell you why he looks like that?
He didn't, but go ahead and say it.
Well, he's got some sort of I would call it genetic disorder where he cannot maintain body fat on his upper body.
Wow. Wow.
And so he looks sunken, and he looks this sort of Skeletor kind of, but his whole body is so ripped. But he's not a real weightlifter. It's because he just can't hold on to body fat. Wow. And so he's got this genetic disorder, which is great for actors, and he looks ripped all the time because he can't gain body fat in his upper body, and so including his face. And so he looks really sort of, intense because his cheekbones pop out and everything. Isn't that wild? But he told me that.
I've got the opposite problem. I think it all moves up.
Yeah, exactly. I have that. Yeah, I wish I had that disorder. But that's why. And so Brian has got, he's been, he's got this great mug, but he's also a well-trained actor. UC Irvine's got a terrific program in terms of, teaching people, the profession. And he went through the entire program, and I've seen him, and he's a good singer too. I don't know if you guys know this, is that he's got this beautiful sort of baritone voice too. Yeah, he can sing.
Wow.
And in fact, he was actually in the musical theater department at the university. And so, that's how I knew him. We did a play together, and I hit him in the gut. I almost put him in the hospital. Yeah, I didn't mean to. I just wanted to send a message, but I didn't realize that he had been so vulnerable in his midsection.
So this next question is a bit of a tradition, but did you happen to see the new Mortal Kombat movie? And if you did, what did you think? And would you ever be interested in possibly reprising your role?
Of course,
in some way
I would
in a future
love
installment?
Yeah, I love it. I love Mortal Kombat movies. I'd love to be in them again. Yeah, absolutely. I'd play any character in there. Yeah, absolutely. I just think they're great. Are you kidding? How fun. How fun, right?
Did you see the new one?
I haven't.
Oh,
no, I haven't seen it yet.
You got it.
I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, I want to.
Yeah.
I've been really busy. I've been doing a lot of different other stuff. I haven't had a chance to see much of anything. Writing I just shot a pilot that I wrote, and it's I'm in the editing process right now, so I'm really busy with that. I'm also writing a screenplay. I'm a writer, and I've been commissioned to write a couple of screenplays, and so I've been writing intensely every day, and so that's been exciting. And so I haven't had a chance to see a lot of movies. But it's on my list. It's absolutely on my list. Do you guys like the latest version?
Yeah, you know what? It's got some mixed reception out there, but personally, I thought it was great. The action was intense. This time they made it like kind of gory, more closer to the games. They had to set a foundation, so the story, what's there, it's not bad, but I can tell that there's a lot of potential, that something really special can happen here. And I think everybody working on the movie, realized some of the errors that they made. And, I have faith in the team that they're going to really go all out and make the next one even better. So definitely worth a watch, though.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I just think that they should bring the series back. I mean, it stands to reason. You don't have to make major motion pictures with this stuff. We obviously did it right.
Yes.
Why not just reprieve the series? Why hasn't anybody ever done that?
It was the most successful new IP, along with, I think, Pamela Anderson's show, I believe.
Yep.
It was so well received. But, I mean, as you know more of the
you weren't here,
Toasty,
Toasty, you weren't here when Chris and I were talking about the speculation of why it didn't get picked up. I heard from the grapevine and from very reliable sources that the reason it didn't get picked up is because they did not include the actors' residuals as part of the budget, which came out to about $3 or $4 million.
Good Lord.
Thereabouts. And so nobody wanted to pick up the check, so they decided just to can the show. And so they were in conflict as to who was to pay for that. So that sounds reasonable to me, because you're right. The stories and the whole thing was working. I mean, the ratings were great.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no reason to not come back. It wasn't that it wasn't popular.
And that finale, it's like, come on, clearly there's more.
Yeah, or something thereabouts. Why not do a series of it and see? It just makes sense to me.
Yep.
I imagine it was fairly expensive to do. I was curious I was thinking about this before we got online. I wonder what it cost for each episode. Do you guys have any idea what the budget was for the television show?
No, that's a very good question. But now I am most
curious.
I bet
it was a couple of million.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But I think it's a great franchise. I love the video game. I think it's just improved and it's gotten better. It's an amazing group of people that have created this product. I mean, it's so entertaining. I mean, I think the MMA stuff and all of the cage fighting came out of Mortal Kombat.
Oh, yeah.
The UFC doesn't exist without Mortal Kombat. And so it was already built in. And I just think Dana White just made Mortal Kombat happen. Put it in an octagon and we're doing Mortal Kombat live. And look how popular the UFC is now, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, my God. It's just huge.
So when we spoke to Bruce Locke, he told us that you guys were in the process of filming a parody video in which Shao Kahn, Kung Lao, and Shang Tsung were playing Go Fish. Are you guys still having active discussions around putting this together? I know the fans would love to see it, or has that been shelved for now?
I think that's right. I think we were joking about doing some sort of, parody kind of thing. I think Paolo lives in New York, though. Bruce and I hang out. I'll go into LA, and I live in San Diego now. And so when I go into LA, I usually, stop by and have a beer with Bruce, or we go golf. I haven't golfed with him since the pandemic, but
okay.
He's a good golfer too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think any kind of that would be fun. Is any kind of parody about it?
We need
Go
to see
fish.
We need to see it. You gotta talk. You gotta email him. Try to get this thing in the works.
Well, I think you got to have the rights to do that, don't you? I mean, I can't go in and start throwing on Raiden costumes and thinking that it's somebody else owns that guy. It's not mine. I wish it was.
Unless you do a really horrible version, like just put like a wok on your head or something.
Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, the wok on the head. Hey, that was one of the things that I wanted more in the show, is that I didn't get to wear the hat.
The first episode.
That was it. Yeah. Otherwise, I guess they just wanted to show off the wig. The wig changed too, which got better. But the first wig was just like, oh God.
I noticed. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were trying to figure out ways to make him a little more stylish. And so we had to change the wig like 3 or 4 times, I think. Also, they get worn out. So we had to try them on and do kind of things. And also, I would love to get together and do a parody of what we were doing. That'd be fun. It'd be fun to do a little bit of a send up on that stuff. That would be good. I'd like that a lot. Yeah.
So before we head into our final segment of the show, it wouldn't be a proper Jeff Meek interview without a question regarding Raven. So tell us your favorite memory working on this great show, and why don't you tell us how it was working with Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa?
Tagawa, what an awesome dude, man. Yeah,
Shang Tsung from the movie.
Oh, so good. And also, we Cary and I, we just, again, a really good actor, and so we had a lot of fun kicking it around together. He's a sensational guy. And also the pilot was a lot of fun. It was very exciting, too, to get a job in Hawaii, too. I had been doing a series in Paris for CBS. It was a late night. They were trying to do a joint French-American production. They were trying to raise money from Europe, and the French wanted to, know about American television and how to make it. And so we put this show together called The Exile, and I was in Paris, and I was freezing my ass off. I mean, it was like, I was out on the street in street clothes, and it was like the worst winter since Napoleon. And I was out in the street all the time, and so I froze. And so me getting the job in Hawaii was like I died and gone to heaven. And so, and then I get to work with Cary and a lot of these just wonderful actors. Also, it was Clyde. He was actually the president of Screen Actors Guild for a while. Clyde, forgetting his last name. Lovely guy. I was these wonderful actors in that pilot, and plus I got a chance to work with Lee Majors, and and some of the co-stars were. Yeah, he was a piece of work, that guy. And so
I love it.
Yeah, and so I loved working with Cary. Again, a really wonderful martial artist. He didn't get a chance to actually really show off his martial arts so much in Raven.
Yeah.
But that was just marvelous fun. I mean, really great. And also, I got a chance to really work with some great martial artists. I was trained by Billy Blanks for like a year. And Billy Blanks, in my opinion, is one of the baddest dudes on the planet. Yeah. He was like 6-7-time world champion in full contact karate. I mean, that guy's a badass. And so I was in the gym with him every day for at least 6 months, and I would fight with him. I'd have full padding on. He was wearing a baseball cap. It took me 6 weeks to touch the baseball cap. Wow. And he was beating the shit out of me. And then I worked with Jeffy Mata, one of the greatest stunt coordinators and martial artists in the business. I worked with Howard Johnson, great champion. I even trained with Benny the Jet Urquidez, who's one of the greatest kickboxers in the world. Yeah. I trained with him because I was going to do a movie with Andrew Dice Clay called Ford Failing. And I got cast in that. And then I trained for 6 months with Benny the Jet. So I was really I got in the ring and he beat the hell out of me, and I got good at what I was doing before I got the Raven gig. I was doing a lot of martial arts in Europe, and I trained for many, many years as an actor and as an athlete, so that when I did Raven, it was kind of just a natural fit. And then I just worked on, weapons stuff with Jeffy Mata, and I just really, I felt like I knew what I was talking about. I was also trained with the katana with a guy named the Reverend Kensho Furuya, who was he was a Grand Master guy that was in Los Angeles that taught me about the katana and the Japanese approach to it. And so I had real traditional training in the katana. With this amazing Grand Master, and he was a scholar. That guy was amazing. He knew he had, I think he got his master's degree or his doctorate in Japanese history from Harvard.
Okay.
He was really cool. And he was like a Buddhist monk. And he lived in this dojo in LA and had he showed me all these great Chinese films and martial arts films that I didn't have any access to. So doing Raven was spectacular. Some of the highlights of that is that I got to do a lot of my own choreography.
Yeah.
I had a lot of input with text. The trouble with doing Raven is that it was a single lead show with Lee, and so I was in almost every shot, so it was exhausting. Yeah. And so doing 3 fight sequences a week was it was really, really physically challenging. Because you're shooting 8 hours on one fight sequence. And so you got to stay warm, and then you got to fight, and then you cool down, and you got to stay warm again. So as an athlete, it was incredibly challenging physically.
Yeah.
And getting hurt, getting whacked, getting blown up, getting shot. It was easy to get hurt on that show, and I was wounded a lot on that show. And so it was like being I felt like I was a professional athlete in a full contact sport. That's what it felt like to me.
Literally.
And so I loved it. Had a great time. I was living in Hawaii. I mean, and
great show.
Doing that show. And I just thought that the show, the production of the show was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed that. So I have very, very fond memories of Raven. And also just living, I just love that community. I mean, Hawaii is like my second home, and loved it.
Okay, so now, Jeffrey, we're going to jump to the
final round.
So what we're going to do with this final round is we're going to ask you about 8 quick questions, sort of rapid-fire questions. I'm going to get to know you a little more. So,
is it like the first thing that pops into my head, or do you want me to really think about it? I'm just kidding.
Okay, this is an easy one. What is your favorite food?
All right. My favorite food? I think mainly anything that my wife cooks. I like pasta. I like good Italian food. I also love great Mexican food.
Oh, definitely.
My 2 favorite cuisines.
And also probably if I was going to have a last food, I'd probably order a filet mignon and some really great,
nice,
baked potato and some. I'm kind of traditional that way.
Beautiful.
I also like sushi too. I don't know. I like a lot of different things, but I think if I had my druthers, it'd probably be some steak somewhere, a really juicy steak.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of your secret talents, Jeff?
I don't know if it's a secret, but I also sang in bands, and I'm kind of a rock and roll freak. Yeah, so I played with John Densmore and Robbie Krieger, and I did the Doors musical. I actually played Jim Morrison in the Doors musical and sang 18 Doors tunes in this musical. And the band was the Doors. And so that was huge. And so I met Ray Manzarek and Robbie Krieger. And a band that I played with when I was in my 20s was actually, I was trying to get this show off the ground. And the John Densmore of the Doors and Robbie Krieger were kind of, involved in that. And then I played with, Jaco Pastorius in New York when I was in my early 20s. Jaco Pastorius is considered one of the great bass players of all time. And Kenny Kirkland and a number of really great musicians, studio musicians in New York. I've done over 50 musicals. And so it's, part of me is also I'm a musician. I write music. I play a little guitar. I play the drums a little bit. And so it's kind of a passion of mine that I don't think a lot of people know is that. Also, I love sports. I'm kind of an athlete. And I played football, basketball, and baseball in high school and some in college. And so I love golf, tennis. I like to play tennis. I guess so. What other passions of mine that you probably don't know? I think that's it.
Oh, very good.
I like to garden.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have a garden. It's like and so I've been building this garden. I love doing that too.
Give us your best impression.
Best impression.
Can you do any impressions?
Let's see. Yeah, man. You know, Sammy here. And then, you know, I was just saying, really nice guy you are. I mean, it's pretty bad, but let's see, who else? I don't really do many impressions, really. I did. No. I had, you know, I think I had Paolo down a little bit when we were doing the show, but I can't remember what I was doing with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't do many impressions.
What was your strangest fan encounter?
Oh, ever? Or just with Mortal Kombat?
No, just ever.
One time I got somebody sent me their dead pet newt in the mail. What? A newt. Do you know what a newt is? Like a salamander.
I know. Yeah, salamander. What?
And so I love my pet. Here's my pet. A little crazy.
Oh.
Also, okay. I was at one time when I was very early on in my career, I was doing a soap in New York, and we would go to these public appearances in different malls around the country. And one time I think it was Cleveland, we were at a mall and we got rushed by the mob. And so I had to run through the mall and they ripped my shirt off. And so I was running half naked in a mall away from about 250 screaming women, which is not pleasant. It's terrifying.
Oh my God.
Being drawn and quartered by 250 crazy women was a little bit scary. I have nightmares about it. And so we had to go into we had security had us had to escape out of the mall because they rushed the stage. It was bizarre. So that was really weird with the fan. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Yeah, it's most of my fan encounters have been great. I love my fans. Love it.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Tell the truth.
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with any acting. You know, it's the challenge of acting, in my opinion, is that you just don't want to get caught acting. And so how do you do that? Well, I think through the character you have to figure out what's truthful, what's honest, what's happening. Even if the character's lying, there's some sort of sense of truth about it. You know, and how do you get to that? Is that I think that you as an artist have to find ways to tell the truth from your own experience and through the character. And so you're using the filtering system of the character, which would be the obstacles physically and emotionally and mentally. But it's really you. You know, when you're playing Raiden, you're Raiden. When you're playing Shao Kahn, you're Shao Kahn. So what is the truth of how you feel given this situation is, I think, the key to really great work in any art form. Dancing, singing, painting, anything. It's really about whether or not there's some sense of, real honesty in it. Yeah. Yeah.
What was your very first job?
My first job as an actor?
Just
my first job? I was working, I guess it would be a paper boy, because I threw papers when I was a kid. But I think my first real, legitimate business where I wasn't, I was working as a waiter in a Cantonese smorgasbord where there's no tips. I was just cleaning and moving food in and out. And, because nobody wants to tip at a smorgasbord. So it was really, I was getting minimum wage and, but I got free, Chinese, Cantonese food, which was nice, but it was a really crappy job.
The penultimate question, what is your guilty pleasure?
I would say my guilty pleasure. I would say that I like to spend time with my wife just watching movies and enjoying that simpleness of... I'm not really guilty about that. Yeah.
I think that's
I don't really
perfect.
feel guilty about it. I really like
perfect.
that. I would say the guilty pleasure would probably be that that's an interesting question. I don't know. What's yours, Chris?
Interviewing people.
You don't have to be guilty about that. You're not awkward either. Toshi, what's yours?
Jeez, my guilty pleasure.
Mortal Kombat, right?
Sure, Mortal Kombat. Like literally, like it's in my
is that
blood.
a guilty pleasure? I mean, guilty sort of implies that you should be kind of feeling guilty about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what? Maybe guilt. I don't know. Maybe guilty pleasure.
I'll go with chocolate then.
Oh, maybe it's I like ice cream or something. I like to eat ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah. That works.
And I probably shouldn't eat too much ice cream. Well, if you love it, I don't know if it's guilty.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question, though. What's your guilty pleasure?
Yeah.
Murder. I like murdering people.
Whoa!
You know what? That's a guilty.
What's going on?
Whoops! Did I say too much? Yeah, I don't know, man. I think maybe I love playing golf. Maybe I spend too much time doing that instead of doing what I should be doing.
There we go.
I don't know, man. I don't really feel guilty about a lot of stuff. I don't have a lot of, because that implies sort of a moral thing, doesn't it? So do you have any sort of sense of morality about doing something wrong? I don't really have a feeling about that. Huh. Maybe I like to drive too fast.
That's
I don't know, man. That's a really interesting question. I've never had that question. You know what I mean? Is it maybe, I don't know, jerking off too much?
I was waiting for it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Wait, maybe, I don't know.
How about for the final question, Chris?
Final question. What is the funniest thing that has ever happened to you?
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Funniest thing that's ever happened to me. Huh. Wow. Whew. That's a tough one. There's a lot of funny stuff. I would say that probably getting where I was actually is what I thought was really hilarious and is maybe getting a job that I didn't expect. That's a bad answer. That's a bad answer. Maybe funniest thing that ever happened to me. It was like, is that implying like where I felt like I was just absolutely being ridiculous?
You were just laughing your ass off, hard to breathe. You'll never forget it for the rest of your life.
Well, so I love comedians. I mean, but happened to me.
Yeah.
Well, I was on stage one time, and there was a situation where an actor that I was playing with, I was doing a comedy, and one of the actors that was playing it, she was wearing high heels, and it was on opening night, and an actor previously to that had spilled a bunch of water on the stage. And so she slipped and fell, boom, on her butt. She wasn't hurt or anything, but it was the entire audience gasped. And then she got up again and she did part of the scene, and then she walked across the stage again, hit the water, bang, right on her butt. And then so everybody's like, oh God, and then about the third time she fell again, and now she's like broke a heel, and now she's like crawling off the stage. and I'm left on the stage, and I was playing this guy. Ironically enough, I was wearing a bald skull cap for the character, and his name was Otto von Bruno, and everybody in the house didn't know what was going to happen. And I said to her, I improvised the line. I said, you know, do what you're going to do, and get those shoes fixed. And as soon as I said, get those shoes fixed, the place kind of fell apart for about a couple of minutes. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So funny to me, something that happened there. What happened to me a couple of times, I think God dang it, that's a tough question. Yeah. That's really a tough question. What's the funniest
you were put in a funny
situation,
so I think that's a pretty amazing story.
Yeah.
Another one was, I guess, let's see if I can have a Mortal Kombat one.
Oh, okay.
That'd be great. Any practical joking going on there?
Because Bruce told us many. They used to screw with him.
What, in Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, he was making out with the Jola character, and then he was going on for way too long, and then he broke character, looked, everyone was gone, nobody behind the camera.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know. I just say that, you know, a couple of times in different films. I'll tell you a story about. I was doing a film with Kurt Russell, and we were doing a film, and it was called Winter People, and I was playing this mountain guy, and we were having a fight in a frozen river, and so we were in Banner Elk, North Carolina. We were actually in the river for like 3 nights, and so I was sick.
Wow.
I'd been dunked in this ice water for a long time, and it's very painful. I don't know if you guys have ever dunked yourself in ice water. It's not fun.
Yeah.
And so the third night, there were the ice on the river had gotten so thick that we couldn't get in it. And so they were setting up the shot, and he said, the director said, we're getting in the water tonight. And I went, you got to be kidding. How are you going to break the ice? He said, we're going to drive a truck over it, and then we're going to stick some electrodes in it from the generators and try to melt the ice. And we're going to. And I was freaking out. It was like 12 below zero. And so I went to Kurt's trailer, and I got Kurt, and I said, hey, do you know we're going? He was in his pajamas in his trailer. And he said, you know we're going down and getting in the river tonight. And he said, you're joking. The stunt guys left. And I said, no, they're setting it up right now. And so he put on a parka and some boots, and he walked down to the set with me, and we saw the director and the producer underneath this tree kind of conferring on how they were going to do this whole shot. They were setting up the lighting and everything. And Kurt asked him, he said, did you really want us to get in the water tonight? And they said, yeah. And he said, I got the balls to get in that water. And Jeff's got the balls to get in that water. But I would never have the balls to ask someone else to do it. And he turned around and walked away. And I thought that was really cool. Awesome. And so they didn't break the ice. They couldn't break the ice. So we ended up shooting the last part of that sequence of the film in Malibu, California, at Malibu Creek. And we just snowed it all in. You couldn't tell the difference at all anyway.
Okay.
It was crazy.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Jeff. That's amazing.
Sure.
So before we end off, where can people find you? Do you have any social media platforms? And lastly, if there's any project you're working on right now, if you want to let people know.
Yeah, I'm working on a couple of things. Thank you very much for asking. I'm working on this film that I'm writing, and I'm also working on a pilot that I directed and I'm in. It's about the San Diego Police Department and the Mexican cartel, and there's all kinds of different moving parts to that. A lot of action in it. And Sweet. I shot it in July, and now I'm in the editing process. So hopefully that is going to be something that I can get out there. And the other thing that I'm working on is a script that is an action script that I'm trying to get produced, and I have this other military movie that I wrote. And so, I'm very busy this way. I'm also teaching a lot. I teach at the LA Film School
That's right.
I teach acting and how, talking to actors from the director's point of view. And I've been working with them for the last 3 years or so. And also I teach privately too. So you can go on my website, which is jeffreymeek.net. And you can see how, if anybody wants to work, and I work on Zoom. I've been doing that for years, even before the pandemic. I was teaching, actors all over the world how to approach the business and how to approach, acting. So I do that as kind of a hobby of me trying to give back a little bit too. And I have some other philanthropic stuff that I'm doing, but that for the most part takes my time with the writing and the directing and the acting. I'm pretty busy. So I even do some plays and stuff, but the theater's been closed down for the last couple of years, so I haven't been able to do that much. But it's coming back, hopefully. And so I'm even thinking about starting a podcast but I haven't put it together yet. But I thought it'd be fun to talk show business and have some of my old friends like Bruce and Brian, and we can talk shit to each other, So that would be fun. And so that's it. If you go to jeffreymeek.net, anybody can find out what's going on with me and some of the projects that I'm working on. That's available. I don't have any other real social media platforms that I'm not on Twitter and even Facebook. I rarely am on there. Yeah. But I'm staying busy. Staying really busy.
Well, that's brilliant. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jeffrey. It's been an absolute honor. And I wish you all the best, and I'm excited to see those projects you mentioned.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Toasty. I appreciate it. Christopher, a pleasure meeting you too.
You too.
I hope to see you guys soon, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Cheers.
And there you have it, my people. We have let thunder take us and received a glimpse of what it was like behind the scenes of Conquest. We once again appreciate you tuning in. Me and Christopher truly hope you all are doing well, and we're excited to provide our next episode in just a few weeks' time. You know how it is. Have fun, stay safe, and
stay flawless.